What is up, everybody? Welcome to the All-NBA show powered by FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Get started with 150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet at FanDuel.com/All-NBA. I'm your host, Adam Mares. I'm joined by my esteemed colleague live in the flesh here in Denver, Colorado, Tim Legler. Legs, what's going on, man?
Hanging out in your living room, man.
I know.
This is good. Inviting me in again. We got to do this more often. Probably will. I got a feeling. This is the last, in Denver game I have on my docket.
Yeah.
I have a feeling I might be here for the playoffs.
A little playoff action?
I got a feeling some playoffs action.
I hope so, man. You got to take it easy on me today. Last time you were here, man. Last time
did I go in on you here?
You hit me with some pillow talk, you know, like.
I mean, I came at you hard the other day. Was that Wednesday? I know Wednesday's show. The way that show ended, I still haven't recovered from that. I'm 48 hours later. I'm still trying to believe that comment.
I got some even softer takes for you today, man.
Is that your goal now?
That's my goal.
To get softer and softer?
I got it,
After
man.
shopping for down feathers? To just make it as fluffy as you can.
We got a great show for you today. We're going to talk about two games, the Knicks and the Lakers, and the Warriors and the Nets. Yes, we're talking Lakers and Warriors today. They are the storyline of the last. We always try to do whatever the story is of the night before. Those two teams are on a roll, but we're also going to get into our favorite players. I'm very excited for this. Our all-time favorite, maybe some current players, as well as historically great stars, but also role players. So I have some ones for you I think are going to shock you. You know.
All right.
But a couple I think are going to shock you a little bit.
All right.
And then, of course, you're calling the Denver game tonight. You got the Denver game on Sunday, so we're going to talk a little Denver Nuggets.
Yeah, of course. Need to. I'm in this city. They're a contender, man.
You could feel the buzz.
They're a contender, despite how down you were on them at one point. They are a contending team.
There's one. We might have to count the pillows today. There's one saying I'm a little too low on the Denver Nuggets. We're going to start, though, in last night's action. The Lakers make it 8 straight, man. 8 straight over this run, and they get a big one over the Knicks. They got up early. Then the Knicks took the lead for the middle portion of this game, and it got tight in the end. It got down to a close game. And the Lakers were very impressive in their comeback and in their clutch play, I thought, in this one. It started, in my opinion, I think it was about 4 or 5 minutes to go. Maybe it was a little bit more than that. Gabe Vincent hit a no-dip three because there was no time on the clock. He catches a grenade, no-dip three from the corner and drains it. He actually had 2 threes in the clutch, sent the game back and forth, sends the game to overtime. And in overtime, Brunson tied it with 1:30 to go, but got hurt. And when he went out, the Lakers kind of just closed this one. So this was a good game. There's a lot to talk about in this one. What stood out to you about it?
I think the first thing that stood out was there was a wild environment in the building.
Yeah. Yes.
That felt like not just like we talk about all the time, like a playoff atmosphere. That felt like deep into the playoff atmosphere, particularly during that comeback and the way that crowd was reacting. Look, I think Luka's brought out even more of that. Because he's going to do stuff throughout the game that that people just jump all over because he's just fun to watch. So that comeback was fueled. You hit the Gabe Vincent three, he hit 2 of them actually.
Yep.
Dalton Connect had a couple of big threes because they were down double digits when he hit a couple. Austin Reeves had a brutal night. He hit a corner 3. So their 3-point shooting overall for both teams brutal. The Lakers hit ones they had to have to help secure the comeback. But I think just for me, visually watching the environment around the court and the level of intensity that both teams were playing defensively, it was just a lot of fun.
And you talk about the crowd. I think a lot of it had to do with the crowd. I mean, of course, it's Knicks-Lakers. It was TNT. It's a big, high-profile game, so you have that energy. But the Lakers have the magic right now. Every teams, you get this momentum, this feeling, and the crowd, the fan base can feel it. And that's what stood out last night was that Lakers crowd had the feel of they're enjoying this wave. And I honestly think that propelled them. You mentioned the 3-point shooting. So Gabe Vincent hits a couple, Dalton Connect hits a couple. LeBron James, though, his three-point shoot, as I'm watching this game, you're not going to stop the Luka offense. Like Luka, they're spreading you out. They're getting a roller to the rim. Luka's going to score if he gets downhill. So you're counting on the Lakers to have to make contested shots if you can scramble and rotate. Gabe Vincent will hit him. Dalton Connect will hit him. They got a couple guys. But LeBron, to me, almost becomes, and he had a one in the corner late, he almost becomes the inflection point as a shooter. Because of all the things he can do, there's oftentimes you put the ball in Luka's hands and LeBron has to be the spacer, and he's shooting it right now.
He is. And his life is going to be easier in terms of shots he gets from the three-point line because of Luka's ability to defense to shift to one side. He can throw the ball from one side to the other, and that's exactly what happened on that corner three. So he's going to take, I think, better shots from the three. He'll take whatever ones he wants off the dribble if he's feeling it.
Yeah.
But the catch and shoot shots that he's going to get now, and he's way more reliable than he's ever been in his career, it's just another weapon for their team. I think one thing that stood out to me also in this game, look, both teams were really getting after it defensively. This is a very physical defensive game. Jalen Brunson was the only guy on the Knicks capable of really generating any sort of action and offense. Anunoby and Hart made some plays, but it was more like, get it swung to you, you have a gap, get downhill, drive, and finish. I'm talking about like handling the ball against pressure and creating like a good offensive opportunity. When Jalen Brunson was not on the floor, it was really eye-opening how bad that was for the Knicks.
Yeah.
They didn't know what to do. And look, the Lakers have been playing this incredible defense now for quite a while. Even before the Luka trade, that uptick would already been there. Now, this is where literally their identity is now. They want to be like the top defensive team in the league every night. They're big, they're physical, their forwards are big physical guys that are also quick, so they can get by with sort of smaller type lineups. And they really got into the Knicks to an extent that it bothered them tremendously in their ability to run their half-court offense.
And I think that has to be the goal for the Lakers because the Lakers can be great in transition. They pick their spots. I mean, Luka to LeBron right now, especially in transition, is like a storyline. That's maybe the best transition duo in the NBA. But they can get the obvious transition ones. Like they know, okay, we got to stop everybody. There's a run out, whatever. But they are so good in the half court that they don't necessarily need an up and down game. There's some teams they want to create chaos. They want this just to be chaos for as much as it can. They'll take advantage of their fast breaks. They're elite at it. But you slow them down the half court, they're happy to do it. And I think that's why their identity is play defense, be a great defensive team, be versatile, everybody's flying around. You got length all over the court. Be versatile because if this is a half court game, we're going to win. And if it's an up and down game, we want to dictate when and how often it is.
Now, it's funny because you remember all the talk about the Lakers was, especially after the trading deadline, well, how are you going to play now with like no bigs?
Right.
Turns out Jackson Hayes is exactly the kind of guy that Luka likes playing with.
Yeah. Well, yeah, sure. And can make 5 times better than what he actually is.
Exactly.
Athletic.
That's my point. So, they went out there. They had the trade rescinded. They were going to get bigger there. That didn't work out. I'm not sure that J.J. Redick was all that upset about that.
Yeah.
I felt like, number one, I think he liked to connect, and I think that he didn't think they needed more bigs.
Right.
And so Jackson Hayes spent some time injured earlier in the year, and I think when you watch him play, he's got a lot of energy. He is a guy that you don't have to run anything for ever, but he's a great late lob threat for Luka, and that's what Luka has had since he's been in Dallas. And so to me, he fits what they want to do offensively. So are they big enough? I mean, we were worried about them playing against the bigger teams. Denver being one of those teams. You saw what they did to Jokic, came up with a great defensive game plan against him, really took him out of that game. That sort of triggered all this talk about the Lakers defense. And ever since then, it's been really kind of elite every single night playing with this lineup. One center. Sometimes they go smaller. Jemison's been getting some minutes. He actually played okay last night. He's a pretty physical guy. But their forwards make up for a lot of that. Dorian Finney-Smith, Vanderbilt, LeBron. Like, these guys are big guys. Hachimura, they can guard in the post, and they're fast enough on the perimeter that they can do a pretty good job on elite guards. So their defense has been very impressive.
When you have a smaller team, and again, they have Jackson Hayes, but they use him in a specific way offensively, and then defensively, they have this versatility and speed and strength. They get really physical with their defensively against opponents' big. So, all right, we can maybe mitigate our undersizedness by being extra physical. And then on offense, we saw it last night. Karl-Anthony Towns did not have a good game. And part of the reason why is when he was on the court, Luka Dončić said, "Where's Karl-Anthony Towns? Come guard me." And now all of a sudden, you want to, if you're big, you're vulnerable on the perimeter, but you can punish them inside. The Lakers are taking away that punish him inside part of it, but they're exploiting the bring him outside on the perimeter part right now. And they did it against Denver and they did it against the Knicks last night.
It's the truth, man. If you're gonna get cooked on one end with your bigs being targeted on ball screen, you got to get them back at the other end.
Yeah.
Did you really notice Karl Anthony Towns much in that game at all?
Nope.
On the offensive side of the court?
Non-factor.
Just literally didn't notice him. And like he's had a great year. Not taking anything away from the numbers he's put up and the impact he's had on this team. I think it was an upgrade over Julius Randle. But these are the kind of moments, particularly, Brunson's off the floor. That's supposed to be the guy now you can run stuff through. He wasn't even getting shots.
Yeah.
He was bottled up. And so they've got a formula now that they're very confident in. When they do deal with talented bigs and guys that can put up numbers that are 6'10 and up, they think they've got a defensive game plan to deal with those guys and the amount of traffic that they're making them play in, while on the other end exploiting them out on the perimeter. So they're winning that battle most nights now, the Lakers.
Yeah. Another reason I think people, and I think a lot of people are buying the Lakers right now. They've been winning. They're looking really good. But one reason I'm buying them, as their upside here, the playoffs often, how you perform in the clutch, to me, is indicative of how you're going to perform in the playoffs in a lot of ways, because that's where the game gets really tight. Execution becomes important. You watch the Lakers even last night against a very, there's defensive capability out on that Knicks team. They get what they want, because when you have Luka on your team and you have LeBron on your team, you're going to get the shots that you want. And so there's not chaotic possessions in the clutch for that team. And so when I watched him last night, and I'll be honest, if Brunson doesn't go down, I wish we could have seen how that game, because it was such a good game. When he went down, you're like, what is the Knicks going to get out of this? But when I watch him execute in the fourth quarter in the clutch, I go, those are the shots they'll live with. They might lose game, miss shots, whatever, but they're going to live with those ones and they can get them easily. They're not working that hard to get the shots that they want.
I've been fascinated with how easily LeBron James has adapted to understanding it's just going to be Luka's time for stretches of games.
Yeah.
And like where Luka will come up the court, he gets a little more pressure at half court, whatever it may be. I saw him last night, I don't know, half a dozen times. Swing the ball to LeBron. It almost looked like Luka was kind of saying, like, here, take it, man. Like, you go. And then LeBron would catch it. He'd wait for Luka to, like, sort of pop back and create space and go right back to him.
Yeah.
And, like, LeBron's like, no, we're going to operate here because this guy's going to create great shots for all of us, him included.
Right.
And I thought that would be a little bit harder to figure out. Look, Luka didn't have – it's weird because he didn't have a great game. He had great numbers. I mean, if you just looked at the raw numbers, 32, 7 boards, 12 assists, and 4 steals.
Yeah.
He's 9 for 23 from the field. He had, 4 or 5 turnovers, 5 turnovers, I believe. 5 turnovers, 5 fouls. Had some defensive possessions where it was like not good. He really didn't shoot the ball well most of the night, but he was so good late.
Yeah.
Like, and that's the thing about Luka. He's not fazed by what kind of night he's had at all in terms of it's winning time, 1 possession game, 4 minutes to go. It's my game.
Yeah. And
you saw it again on display last night.
What's funny is their numbers are almost identical. 32, 7, and 12 for Luka, 31, 12, and 8 for LeBron. Like just points, rebounds swapped. Almost everything else exactly the same. And that's kind of what you can expect from these two. And I'm with you. I don't know if LeBron plays like this. If this happened 4 years prior, 2021 or 2020 or 2021, do you think LeBron would take as much of a backseat? And it's not like he's taking a backseat. He's very involved. Right. But get the ball out of his hands as much. I almost wonder if this is just... he knows the moment in time he's in. Yes, I'm still dominant, but we got him, so I'm just going to set him up.
Yeah, look, LeBron came out and said it. Like, Luka was his favorite player in the league. I believe him.
Yeah.
Luka's that dynamic offensively that LeBron gets it. Like, Luka Dončić can physically break down a defense really unlike any other player in the NBA. And I think LeBron understands that. As great as LeBron is, like, you're pretty certain Luka might miss shots. He might turn the ball over, but he's not really affected by what you're doing to him defensively. He's not affected by quickness. Yeah. He's not affected by length. I actually think length, people thought the Minnesota series last year, like the length was going to bother him. Jaden McDaniels and these long wings were going to bother him. Like, it's not length. The one thing that does stand up to him is physical strength and brawn, which is why Dort has played him well. Yeah. But quickness, length, that kind of stuff, he's not fazed by any of that, man, because he's not sped up. He does what he wants, and he's not going to have great nights all the time or make great decisions even. But I think LeBron understands, like, he's going to get what he wants on this trip. There's really no answer for him, and LeBron is more than willing to let him have that, man. Have more control. It makes it easier for LeBron. He'll pick his spots better. He's going to be there late. to determine matters. And I think LeBron's in a very comfortable place. I don't know that LeBron was fully bought in on all of this when it happened. I really
think?
I really don't. I really don't know. Especially those first couple games.
I think he was.
Like Luka's defense was so bad in those first couple games. And I was just sitting there thinking, like, I wonder what LeBron's thinking right now.
Yeah.
So, but I do know this. One thing LeBron's responding to, winning.
Yeah.
And they're winning at a high level to the point where they've now placed themselves probably as the biggest challenger to Oklahoma City.
Do you think this is the honeymoon phase in any capacity? Meaning, sometimes you get a new player, nobody really knows what the Lakers are doing yet. They're still forming their identity. And I just wonder if it's like, all right, teams now have to try different strategies, what worked, throw some things out. There's some weakness in what they're doing right now that hasn't been exposed yet. Do you think this is a little bit of a honeymoon phase and teams will start to figure out how to attack them?
I'm not too concerned that's going to happen, honestly, for them, because you have those two players. Those two guys can figure out. And you have one
Problem
on
solvers.
each side of the floor now.
Yeah.
And there's like just physically, there's not a matchup or a game plan, scheme, or personnel that really is effective against them for the most part. A lot of it is going to come down to teams effectively blitzing them and getting out of the blitzes and not getting hurt by the role-playing three-point shooters. Like, that's your best chance against the Lakers. So they could still be susceptible to that on given nights. But where J.J. Redick has made that part of it less important, like the inconsistency with the three-point shooting. We're not winning games on that. They're going to help us some nights win games. We're going to win games because we're going to guard every night. And that's really what they've done. And he has remade what their identity is as a team and into like a tougher team, a physical team, a team that wants to make you work for everything.
Yeah.
And we will figure it out offensively. And if JJ can't, then Luka and LeBron will. Or maybe it's even vice versa. If Luka and LeBron can't, like they're first, then JJ will. Or the three of them together. With minds like that and talent like that, you're going to be able to figure things out offensively enough. It's the defense that had to improve, and it has.
Let's go to the Knicks side of this, because obviously they haven't been beating good teams this year, right? That's one of the things about them. They lose to the upper echelon of the NBA. And more important to me, as great as Karl Anthony Towns has been, they need Brunson for a million different reasons. And that injury last night might be one that's, I think he's missing a game or two for sure, but it might be one that he misses 4, 5, 6 games recovering from this. And here's the thing, they're 40-22. They're not that far ahead in the standings. I think 3 games. They got the Clippers. They're on a road trip now. They got the Clippers tonight on a back-to-back. They got Sacramento, Portland, Golden State, and then they're home for Miami. If he misses any or all of those games, a losing streak to me is not out of the question for that team because of how dependent they are offensively.
That was, there are a lot of different ways guys roll their ankles. When you are, basically as high as you can get off the ground for you individually, and Jalen Brunson's not a leaper, but he jumped as high as he could on that play. To come down like dead on top of someone's foot from a height. It's one thing if you're dribbling and your feet are close to the ground and you step on a guy's foot and you roll your ankle. Happens all the time. Guys go down, they grab their ankle. Those typically, a lot of times guys will even finish a game. Maybe they're sore the next day. Maybe they miss a game. When you land coming out, from a vertical position and you come all the way down full weight bearing on a guy's foot and it rolls immediately and snaps all the way over to the extent his did, I wouldn't be shocked, truthfully, if this were Weeks.
Really?
With that
If it's
level,
Weeks, they're in trouble.
I mean, he looked like he was in a lot of pain after he shot those free throws and left the court.
Yeah.
I mean, he could barely really make his way back to the locker room, put no weight on it at all. All that thing's going to do is balloon up and swell and be stiff. And again, if you're Thibodeau and the Knicks, you can't really risk this being something that lingers the rest of the year.
Right.
Him especially, and it was exposed last night, they've got to make sure that thing gets right.
Right.
Where he feels really good.
Yeah.
Very little soreness, very little stiffness, no swelling before you see him again. And I'm telling you, that was bad, man. That looked like that could be, you said 5, 6 games. That probably would be the minimum.
Wow. They're in trouble if that's the case. So that last night was the swing game. They were 3 games behind Boston and 4 games ahead of Milwaukee. Now they're 4 games behind Boston, 3 games ahead of Milwaukee. So now that gap, they're more likely to fall than they are to climb for the rest of the year. So we'll have to keep an eye on that one. Let's just quickly talk about the other game that happened. The Warriors beat the Nets 121-119. They were down in this game, Legs, 27-5 to start. I can't remember what team it was we were talking about a week ago. I think it was Boston, where we said, man, the first quarter of that game, they just looked like they didn't care or they weren't engaged. That was a very lazy first 5 minutes, I thought, from Golden State. They obviously steadied the ship. Steph had a crazy heave at halftime that went in. One of my favorite buzzer beater half-court shots I've ever seen. And they got the win. They pulled ahead late. I know it looks close. They actually were up 8 or 9 points in the clutch of this game. It finishes up 2. But they're now 8-1 in their last 9. And this is just another, it's the Nets. Not the most impressive win, but they're stringing them together.
I agree with you at the beginning of the game. It looked like one of those games, and it happens a few times a year in the league, each team. You just know collectively you don't have it. You don't have legs. Whatever the reason may be. 27-5. I mean, everything Brooklyn did, they did it so easily at the beginning of that game. It looked like a struggle for the Warriors. I think Claxton got the bucket to go up 27-5, and you're just kind of like, well, okay, they're not digging their way out of this. They don't look like they've got it tonight. They almost erased the entire thing by halftime.
Yeah.
It was what, like a 5-point game,
Yeah,
I think?
5 points, yeah.
5-point game by halftime, and now, okay, you're re-energized. Now you're pretty much, you know you have to get this game. It's Brooklyn. You're the Warriors. You've been playing great. Keep it going. And once they cut that deficit before the half, you kind of knew what was going to happen. And then, Curry did his thing in the second half, and the Warriors continued to play very well. I will say this. He did the night-night thing.
Yeah.
I love Steph, man. I thought that was a little bit of a weak night-night.
Oh, because it's Brooklyn and they were down.
Because it's
so much?
already over.
Yeah.
It was 10 already.
Yeah. I love this take, actually. I like it.
And
who was it
recently he gave the nap to really early?
It was third quarter. It was a third quarter game. I don't remember which one it was.
Night too. And I said,
third quarter.
I said at the time, if it's that early in the game, it's not even night. It's nap.
Yeah.
It's a nap. It's an afternoon nap. But when you do it that early, but what he did last night, it's kind of like.
Yeah. The game was over, man.
Game's been over, man.
I love this. You are a stickler on the sanctity of the celebration.
I totally agree, man. The sanctity of a lot of things around the game. These little, I'm a quirky, weird dude when it comes to some of this stuff. I'll be the first to admit it. But I love Steph Curry.
Yeah.
But I was like, I don't know, man.
Yeah.
I think we're past the point where the night comes in here. This game's been over here for a couple of minutes.
This is like Mike Breen with Bang. Not every shot is a bang. Not every shot.
You got to save the night, man.
Yeah.
For that, night should be reserved, truthfully, inside of a minute. And
close game, tight game,
takes it beyond, takes it to at least 5 or 6 point lead.
Yeah.
Where it's okay, that's it.
It's the knockout punch, not the kick him on. He did it night after kicking him on the ground. They'd already been knocked out.
Yeah, I mean, the guy already got counted out. It's like, to use your boxing analogy, they already counted the guy out.
Yeah.
He's over in the corner. They're cutting his gloves off, and you run across and punch him one more time. It's like, no, the fight was over, man. It was over.
I like this take, man. The sanctity of the celebration is not to be messed with. Any other thoughts on the Warriors or anything here?
Man, they're playing great, man. Look, the West is really interesting right now. Oklahoma City's clearly been the cream of the crop all year. They're at a different level.
Yeah.
Everybody positioning themselves. We're trying to figure out where do you fall in the pecking order. Look, Memphis right now, I saw them the other night, and we're worried that John Morant's shoulder's not going to be right all year.
Yeah.
And he's not getting what he wants, that he typically gets with his athletic ability. And what he has been doing from the 3-point line, I think it was 4 for 41 coming into the game from the 3. He missed his first 7. That's a 4 for 48 stretch. And he's doing a lot of this during the game. It's not even on camera. The whole game he's going. So I'm worried about just his overall health. Jaren Jackson Jr. is out right now. I'm worried about them. Houston has clearly come back to the pack.
Yeah.
That's why, Denver and the Lakers, they're super interesting now. And I think Golden State is that other team right now. The way they're playing, what Butler's given them, the way Curry looks, the West is very, very interesting to me once you get beyond Oklahoma City as these teams fight it out to see who the last man standing is going to be.
So Golden State over their last bit, they have a good win over the Knicks, but the other wins they've got, Charlotte, Orlando, Charlotte, Brooklyn. These are, I'm not trying to take anything away from them, but those aren't exactly murderer's row. Coming up, they've got Detroit, Portland, Sacramento, the Knicks again, and then Denver, Milwaukee. Those are I'm curious to see. They're 8-1 in their last 9. I'm curious to see how they stack up when they go to Denver, Milwaukee, even Detroit coming up. So I think they got some big ones coming up.
10 out of 12, and this was going into that stretch, they were under 500 when all that began. Crazy. They were an average NBA team. They looked too small. They didn't look like they had enough depth. Jimmy Butler's answered some things for them that they needed. Just a toughness standpoint, the free throws, plays both ends. He's always been pretty good in the clutch. So look at him now. I look at him differently, man. Like I saw them at the beginning of the year when they were red hot out of the gate, and they looked amazing. Their defense and offense were both top 5, like first 10 games of the year. They looked incredible. They beat Memphis handily the night I saw them early in the season. It's like, wow. And then, man, they had some injuries, but like guys were underperforming relative to how they played last year. And they looked like, all right, man, play in at best. Maybe not even escape to play in. If you do, you're probably a sacrificial lamb for Oklahoma City. That's what it looked like. Not anymore. Yeah. That's not how I view them anymore. The narrative has changed around the Warriors, and it's good. It's fun because more Curry's good. That's a good thing for all of us.
Draymond tried to tell you they're winning it this year. He called his shot before this run. He called his shot and said, "Hey, we're winning it this year." So far, it's looking like maybe possible, I guess. More possible than it was when he said it.
I'm not ready to go there. Okay.
I'm saying it's possible. Right. It's Steph Curry.
Yeah,
it's
sure.
Steph Curry.
Sure, a lot of things are possible.
I'll say this, man, because, Court of Gold, that great documentary on Netflix about the Olympics, and we all watched it last year. We did some great shows on it. It reminded me that the guy of that team, when it mattered in both of their close games, were Serbia and France with Steph Curry.
Yeah, sure.
And it just reminds you of what he's not always like that, but you get a game to the clutch. Steph Curry does stuff that you just can't stop. You just have to close your eyes and pray he doesn't hit the heaves that he hits. And when he's on fire, they all feel like they're going in.
It was a really cool thing because you get this team and the 3 guys, Durant, LeBron, and Curry, right? They're the old heads of the team.
Yep.
They're the faces of this generation of the NBA. And they were the 3 guys that carried them to that.
Yep.
Like you think at some point they're on the team and they're still, obviously those guys are all still great players. But at the same time, you got younger guys on the team too, and you're like, okay, hand the baton off a little bit here in a moment like that. There was no baton handing except to each other. Yeah. That's the only place that baton was going because it was, Durant was incredible, especially the way he started the whole thing. LeBron was overall their best player,
right?
And then you had Curry deciding matters in the two big games, both of which looked. Especially the Serbia game looked dire.
Yeah.
And they digged them. I haven't watched it yet, by the way. I downloaded all the episodes. That'll probably be my flight today. I gotta fly to OKC today. Or I'm sorry, tomorrow. It'll probably be on the flight.
That's a short flight, man.
I don't want to get them all in.
I don't think you're not.
What's that flight? How long is that flight?
Probably about an hour.
All right, I'll get one in.
You might get one episode.
I'll get the first one in, I guess.
All right, there you go. You have to take a couple more flights. All right, let's take our first break. On the other side, we're going to have a little bit of fun. It's Friday, a little casual Friday for us. We're going to talk about our favorite star players, past and present, favorite role players as well, and kind of talk about why we like certain types of players around the league. I'm excited for that. We'll do that on the other side. Plan that is tailored to your goals, and it'll help you stay accountable. It'll help you track all of the things that you're doing so that you can see your progress over time, set goals and check them off as you go. It's really incredible. And then what's nice about it is it's super adaptable. So maybe you wake up in a hotel, you're like Legs, you're just an international man of mystery, constantly flying from one place to the next. And you need to adjust your workout because you don't have all the equipment available to you. You just say what you got, and it'll say, okay, here, do these things. Here are the workouts. Maybe it gives you a workout you've never seen before. Well, they have this great 3D model that shows you exactly how to do the lift, what things to focus on. And it really is a thing that is going to up, 10x your chances of hitting your fitness goals. It has everything. I'm telling you, it really is like working with a personal trainer. So level up your workout. Join Fitbod today to get your personalized workout plan. Get 25% off your subscription and try the app for free for 7 days. You got nothing to lose. Download it. Sign up for free for 7 days at fitbod.me/allNBA. That's fitbod.me/allNBA. Also want to tell you guys about FanDuel. When the game tips off, the NBA action is just beginning on FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because FanDuel is your home for NBA live betting. I did this, by the way, the last Nuggets game. They're down 15 points or something at half to the Kings. And I said, I know the Nuggets are winning this one. They're playing horrible. DeRozan's on fire. Denver just has to zone in for 15 minutes and they're going to win the game. And, of course, it worked out. So you can hop on there and place your bet at halftime if you have a feeling. You watched how the first half went. You know what the adjustments are that are coming. Hop on and you can make the live bet in-game right there at halftime. And new FanDuel customers get started with $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. Just visit FanDuel.com/AllNBA to join today. That's FanDuel.com/AllNBA. For your shot at $150 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NBA. Must be 21 or older, present in select states. For Kansas, an affiliation with Kansas Star Casino, or 18 plus, present in D.C. First online real money wager only. $5 first deposit required. Bonus issued as non-withdrawable bonus bets, which expires 7 days after receipt. Restrictions apply. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. If you have a gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit fanduel.com/RG. Call 1-888-789-7777 or visit ccbg.org/chat in Connecticut. Visit mdgamblinghelp.org in Maryland. Hope is here. Or call 800-327-5050 for 24/7 support in Massachusetts. And in New York, it's 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY. All right, back here.
Yeah, first of all, I could have watched one of those episodes during that ad read. Turns out.
It's got the longest
By
disclaimer
the way,
in the
some
world.
people are saying they couldn't hear you. I think you got to do it again.
Come on, man. Come on. You know what? Why don't we, I'm going to pass this one off to you.
I'm going to torture Adam. No, you got to do it again. Oh, by the way, I want to comment. Sometimes you see some comments over here. So degenerated youth. I'm not talking to the degenerated youth of our, our nation. This is actually someone whose name on here is degenerated youth. And he says, hope you guys stay as is and don't go into the hot take culture.
Yeah.
I can tell you right now, that will never happen. Not here. We're going to say some strong stuff. I think I've been doing that throughout my entire career at ESPN. I'll never fall prey to that, man. I speak what I believe. Adam's the same way. So if you guys like this, because this is just legit basketball conversation, honesty, we're not always right, but we're honest.
Yeah.
You're going to get it here.
And we care about the actual game. I feel like the hot takes, those things, you get to hear people, you're like, you don't even like the game. It's just the argument part of it or something that you enjoy. We love the game, man. We're always watching. And speaking of love of the game, I thought it would be fun, since we're in person, to sit here and talk about some of our favorite players of all time and what it is we like about those players. And I'll go first just to kind of set the stage here.
I like it.
Everybody knows, so I'm going to get it out of the way because this one's not a surprise. My all-time favorite player, and I'm not just saying this as hyperbole, I'm not even just saying it because he currently plays for my favorite team, but Nikola Jokić, to me, is the most fun I've ever had watching basketball. And I know everybody has different things that they like. Jokić makes me laugh. Only other player that makes me laugh when watching him is Steph Curry. Steph Curry, when he makes a crazy shot, you laugh, right? Jokić makes me laugh every single game because he does something that is so creative or absurd or just difficult or shocking that all you can do is laugh. But I also love Jokić because people always talk about he's a boring player. He's not the face because he doesn't go out of his way to do these things. Jokić, what people don't know, and you have to really watch to know this, he is a basketball philosopher. He often he thinks about the game in the abstract. He cares about the sanctity of the game. He cares about the purity of the game in a lot of ways. And oftentimes, we were talking the other day, Luka Dončić, one of his best friends, he gets traded and he says, yeah, I think it should be that way. If a team isn't happy with how you're playing, anyone should be traded, no matter how good you are. That's one of his best friends he's talking about. He had a game earlier in the year, the Nuggets lose to the Wizards, a horrible loss, and he says, in my country, if you play like that, you don't get your paycheck. And he means it. No other player is saying this. Jokić has these way of thinking and approaching the game that I just find him unendingly fascinating. And then every time he steps on the court, you see something great. So Jokić, to me, is my all-time favorite player. Of course, he plays for my team. But I actually think it's beyond that.
Interesting. So you are, and first of all, it's a great choice.
I was going to say, you're going to beat me up for liking Jokić.
No. It's a great choice. I mean, that's, and it almost seems obvious.
Yeah.
But for me, there's only one player that stands out. And I think sometimes it's like that first guy that you latch onto, it's got to take something pretty extreme to surpass that player in your mind. So for me, I'm going to go back a number of years when I first started playing, and this player became my favorite player. And he's the only one. I wrote down 5 names on here. They're all for different reasons. Yeah. But this is the only one of the 5 that not only for me was all the things you just said, most fun I ever had watching, not just an NBA player, an athlete, period. Yeah. And everybody knows how much I love the Commanders. This is my favorite athlete of all time. And I was also rooting for that team to win because there's other guys that I think are some of my favorite players of all time. Yeah. I didn't really have an emotional investment in them winning and losing. Right. It didn't matter. I just liked watching them.
Yeah, you were entertained.
And for different reasons. But this guy, Larry Bird, that's my guy. That's the guy. And honestly, I always tell people, like, it's not an exaggeration to say that he changed the course of my life in a lot of ways because I was mainly a baseball player. He came into the league right when I was going into high school. I had not really played organized basketball. And when I was playing at a powerhouse baseball program. That's why I went to that school. And I grew a lot. And Bird was now in the league. And I'm like watching him every night. And I remember watching these games with my dad, just mesmerized by his passing ability more than anything else. And his clutch factor, like how good he was when the pressure was up. So he became my favorite player. And I was living in Richmond, Virginia. I wasn't even a Celtics fan. I was a Bullets fan growing up.
And East Coast, by the way, if it's Boston, my understanding, it takes a lot for you to like a Boston player.
There's no doubt. Like I said, the Bullets were my team, and they had won a championship recently. Yeah. Before that, they won their only championship around that time, late 70s. That was my team. But Bird, I was so like locked in on this athlete that then I just became a Celtics fan for the rest of the time he was there. And then as soon as he was done, I didn't really care that much about the Celtics anymore winning. It was about him. But I rooted for that team every night, and I rooted for that player. So no, it's very difficult for anybody to have the talent, entertainment factor, and also winning. Yeah. Which like you're enjoying at the time. Bird is the guy. Bird's the number one guy. I wrote down a few other names.
Hold on, but you see a similarity between these two because some of our guys we're going to run parallel on some of the types of players we like, and some will be divergent. But I think Bird is one of the players most like Jokic in a lot of ways. He's a power forward, not a center, but they both were guys that can do a lot of everything and quick decision making. All that stuff. So I actually think they're very, very similar.
No, it's fair. They both played a grounded game. Yeah, they weren't guys. They were super athletic. They understood angles and leverage and their IQ. Jokic might be the smartest player in the league. Bird might have been the smartest player in the league when he played.
Right.
So yeah, there are a lot of similarities between the two of them. There's no doubt about it. Yeah. I wrote down a couple of names. It's just weird.
Just give it the next one. I just love the next one.
It's weird because they were rivals. But honestly, Magic is one of those guys for me too. Now, obviously, when they played the Celtics, I wasn't rooting for Magic Johnson. I was rooting for Bird. But I was rooting all season for those two teams to end up in the finals again. And oddly enough, people think that like they played like every year in the 80s in the finals. Yeah. They really didn't. Would they play 3 times?
Yeah, I think 3.
Right? And it seems like, Celtics Lakers own the entire decade. And you had other teams like the Rockets got into a couple of finals. The Sixers got into a final. So there were other teams that were really good, but I rooted for both teams. And Magic for me, it was just all about, man, the fun and like the joy. And like he was the most amazing passer I'd ever seen in my life. Some of the stuff that he would do was the first guy I'd ever seen passes like that difficult with that kind of flair in a game. Yeah. And so for me, I just was mesmerized by this 6'9" guy playing point. And then I got to actually play against him in a game. Bird, I never played against in a regular season game. He was just finishing. I played against him
what a bummer.
Played against him in a preseason game.
Okay.
And actually got to shoot around on the court. I went out early, he did. We were the only 2 people on the court, Hartford, Connecticut, for a preseason game. He ended up not playing in the game, but he got his work in. So we were the only 2 people out there shooting at one point. This is like my guy. It was really a cool thing.
This is early in your career?
Yeah. My career, I hadn't really even, because I was still kind of bouncing back and forth. Like I was in Europe, the CBA, the league. I hadn't really gotten there yet. It was after that. And I was there for like the next 10 years.
Did you ever tell him, though, that he was your favorite player? Is that a thing? Like,
no. Bird is one of those guys that like you never really got a chance because he coached that and I played against him when he coached. Yeah. And in Indiana, you don't have those conversations. He never really came to any of the retired players events.
Really?
You didn't see him All-Star Weekend.
Little reclusive.
Very private dude. When it was over, he kind of
Also
stepped
like
away
Jokić.
from it. Yeah, exactly.
Very similar.
Very
there.
similar. So no, I never got a chance to do that.
Yeah.
But everybody kind of knows, that's my guy. In fact, when we were doing all those hits from home during COVID, and we had to set up our set behind us, and then ESPN comes in, they check it out, make sure everything's okay. I only had I had two different places I would do it from. One was a lot of pictures of my family, things like that. But the one, I had a much smaller area, so I could only fit a couple of things. And the one picture I put up was Magic and Bird battling in the finals, in the mid-'80s.
That's awesome.
And that was because those were my two guys. So it's weird because they were rivals. You would think I would have hated Magic, but I didn't because I respected the game. And I loved the way he played. And I'd never really seen anything quite like that. A guy that size playing point.
How'd you do against him? When he played against him?
Dude, it's actually a funny story because I was coming out of a timeout. I got put into the game. I was in Phoenix, and I was coming out of the timeout. And Kevin Johnson was on the team, Tom Chambers, that group of Phoenix Suns. And as we're coming out of the timeout, the Lakers are coming onto the court. I'm a two-guard. Well, Byron Scott's the two-guard. So I start running over to Byron Scott. And Kevin Johnson's like, no. Yo, he points like, Magic. because Kevin Johnson was 6'1".
Yeah.
So back in that time, the two guard was guarding Magic most of the time.
Yeah.
And the point guard would have to go guard Byron Scott because Magic was just too big. It was funny because, Magic, he was straight ahead speed. He was very fast in the floor, but he wasn't lightning quick.
Yeah.
So and back then you could hand check. So he's got the ball over half court. I remember I got up into his hip, had my forearm on him. You're in your stance. You really feel like, man, I'm up in this. I'm affecting this guy. And he's just standing there, man, and just scanning the defense like the Terminator, like he's just reading code. And then he just threw a laser pass to somebody, probably for a back cut layup. But it was just weird to see this size of this guy, bringing the ball up the floor. No, we had never seen it before. And so I didn't get many opportunities to play against him because his career ended shortly after that. But it was pretty cool.
Yeah. The next guy I have on my list, another superstar. I mean, some of mine are kind of basic, to be honest with you, but I was a huge Kobe guy. And what's funny is I was a Kobe guy, and then to a moment to where I move on from guys. I'll have you talk about my guys.
Man.
They'll be my guys.
What does that say about our show? Man,
it's over. It's over, man.
Move on for people.
But Kobe was a guy he was obviously his first half of his career came when I was in college and a college basketball player. And so watching him, and I remember going, to my dorm room when he had 62 points in 3 quarters. And I remember I turned on SportsCenter that day, get home from class or whatever at night and being like, oh my God, just watching the highlights every single night. And he was a guy, I still remember a move he did, an inside pivot from the foul line where he kind of pump fakes, gets a guy in the air, inside pivot. And I went to the gym right after that because I was like, that's a move. I gotta learn that one. That one was so good. So I loved him because of how technically perfect the game was at a time when that's all I had to work on was the technical part of the game.
Might have had the best footwork of any elite perimeter scorer that's ever lived. I mean, it was a huge part of what he did. And, he had that competitive edge and toughness. I'll tell you just a real quick. So my favorite Kobe Bryant story is it's summertime in Philly. I'm in the league. I'm playing in Dallas. It's I don't know what year, 92, maybe 91, something like that. And we come back to Philly in the summer, all the pro players, and there's a lot of guys from that area. You come out, you find a gym on that given day. The calls would go out. You knew where to go. Today's usually where the pickup games are. So you'd go. And it was all the Temple University players were there. And then so I get there one day and I have training tables set up. They're taping our ankles. And I'm got the next game and I'm sitting over there and I look and their game's going on. And there's obviously a very young player out there. But I thought he was so holding his own to such an extent that I was like, well, this guy's he must play at one of the local colleges.
Right.
So I remember asking the trainer, I'm like, who is that guy right there? And that's Kobe Bryant. He's 15. He's going to Lower Marion High School. And he was absolutely out there and athletically holding his own against pro players. And it just stood out to me. And you knew the guy was headed for greatness. And then he and I actually got to talk over the years because his father, Joe Bryant, went to LaSalle University, which is my alma mater. That's where I played. So we kind of were able to bond a little bit over that. And over the course of his career, every time I saw Kobe, he was always great to me. But that's a great one, man. He is the iconic player for a lot of guys, including a lot of guys that are in the league now.
It's so influential in that way. And, I always say, his passing was tragic for a million different reasons. But one of the things I always think about was he was a fan, because of his international background, he was a fan of the international game and of international players. And we've had this weird thing like, can we sell Giannis? Can we sell Luka? Can we sell Jokic? I wish he was around to smack everybody in the head in media and say, like, guys, these guys are incredible. You know, watch him. So I always think about that was one thing that I think we lost. And then the other thing, he was Nico Harrison's guy. Man, I'd love to hear what he thinks of this trade.
Yeah, that's true. Well, look, and just, the tragedy of it all, just what he still had to do going forward with his impact
we lost
on
a lot.
The game. Youth, everything he was doing with his academy, with at the youth level. And who knows, what his daughter, the influence he was going to have on his daughter. Just the whole thing's so tragic. But he still had so much more to give. And it's like any super talented person that you feel like is taken before their time. That's what you always think. Like you think about someone like Michael Jackson or Prince, like what was more to come? They had so much more to do because they're creative geniuses. And like Kobe, his impact would have been felt in different ways. Who knows? Would he have owned a team? Would he have wanted to get in the front office one day? Like, who knows?
I think just commentary, to be honest with you. I mean, who knows? He could have done anything. But I just think the commentary, like, you need a leader pushing the conversation of his ability. Obviously, there are people doing good work out there, but someone like him, I think, could take some of these narratives that most, I think, strangle the game and say, guys, stop it. Let's talk about Luka. Let's talk about
one of my favorite things about Coach, you remember the clip when he was on, I don't remember which late night talk show. It might have been Conan O'Brien. I don't remember, but could have been Jimmy Kimmel. But they showed him a clip of like a video of like his teammates, the young guys, acting like fools on camera in the locker room, just being so ridiculously over the top silly. And they showed it, and then they came back.
Oh, yeah, I remember this. Yeah,
and he was just like this.
Yeah.
It just like summed him up so perfectly.
So those are you have another star player.
I want to give you real quickly. I'll go through these guys fast. So now those are my two favorite.
Yeah.
For personal emotional investment in them and their success. These next two guys, I think the most two entertaining players for me that have ever lived. Just in terms of sheer, they're playing. I need to watch them.
Yeah.
That's Michael Jordan and Steph Curry.
Yeah.
I think those are the two guys for me. Do you have?
I have Steph Curry.
Is Jokic still that for you? Is Jokic going to be your answer to everything? Is he your favorite role player too? Like when do we not say Jokic? What do I have to ask you to not say Jokic?
I will agree with you on Steph in that I think if I say subjectively, Jokic's the most fun player for me. I think Steph's the most fun player objectively. Like if I just stepped outside of any bias, he is the most fun. And somebody said in the chat, I'm old. I'm 41. Jordan retired in 98. I was 14 years old. So while I watched Jordan, I knew Jordan, I liked Jordan. I never it's not like I saw his career through the same eyes. I was a kid. So I obviously know Jordan, watch Jordan highlights, all these different things, but I just was a little young for that.
Jordan it's a weird one because he won 6 rings in the 10 years I was in the league. Yeah. So I was playing against him. And so you're not going to sit there and just be, admiring a guy while you're playing against him. I'm just saying what he brought when you did watch it, whether you were on the court or just on a night off your home and you're watching a Bulls game because they're on, like the stuff he did is so memorable about how spectacular he was. That was the most entertaining it gets. And I think Curry, for me, he's the guy I've waited all those years. Who was that guy going to be? And I'm sure I had different guys between Jordan's career and the start of Curry's that at different times I might have felt that way about, but not sustained.
Yeah.
Where it's this fun. I mean, the guy Curry did it again last night.
Yeah,
he hits the fadeaway shot at the buzzer at half court, and then gets 40.
I know.
And just unfortunately had a very late, way past the line, night. That's the only thing that I have against this game.
You love him, but you're not above criticizing him.
You got to give an appropriate night. I'll talk to him about that. I'll see him soon.
Let's get weird now. Let's get into our off. Those are everybody's favorite players. There's a lot of people out there. And we had this conversation last night. We shut down the bar last night here at the DMVR bar, going back and forth on this. I love Borris Diaw. I think Borris Diaw to me is one of the most underrated, great role players. And my hot take on him that I stand by to this day, I'm stamping this. He should have been the Finals MVP in 2014. That's how good he was. Or at the very least, in the conversation. Go back and watch the tape. Every time he checked in, the Spurs went on a huge run. That guy did everything, man. He was a great defender. He was an incredible passer and connecting passer. He could score on you. Get a mismatch him in the post. He just puts his big body into you and throws a hook shot. I love Borris Diaw.
I also was an aficionado of Borris Diaw.
All right, did I ruin it for you?
You just take it to such an extreme level. You really take it to an extreme level, man.
I think he's incredible, man. He's on 2 iconic teams, that great passing Spurs team, and he was on the 7 seconds or less Suns team.
So you probably, I'm guessing, you probably feel similarly about a guy like Andre Iguodala.
I do love Andre Iguodala. I mean, he broke my Nuggets heart. He left us in the middle of the night to go to the Warriors. But
I see what kind of guy you're like attached to.
I'm telling you, smart players. You know,
What kind of player were you, Adam?
Borris Diaw.
There you go.
Borris Diaw for sure.
That's exactly why I said that.
I always tell people, I was like, I played like, the truth is I played like Borris Diaw. He was even more round, more of a role player than a star.
See, I'm the opposite, man. Like I admire guys that were like, the role playing 3-point shooter. But I can't sit here and say like I was rooting for those guys, or like I can't give them too much credit.
Yeah.
I have a hard time with that.
Okay.
So like some of the guys on my list are very much opposite of that.
Okay, let me hear it.
I got a good one. It's the reason this got triggered in my head. I just saw him 2 nights ago. They honored him at the game in Memphis. Tony Allen.
Yeah,
Man.
he
Sign me up for Tony Allen defense.
Junkyard dog.
Like it's just his want to.
Yeah.
Own it. Bruce Bowen was kind of in this category.
Yeah.
Like the amount of want to that you have to play defense that hard as a starter for 38 minutes a night, guarding the number of players you have to guard at every trip. This person can light you up. Just the amount of energy to expend to do it the way he did it.
Yeah.
So much respect for him, man. They honored him in Memphis the other night. Big standing ovation. He was in the house. It was a pretty cool moment. I got another one for you. It's a weird one. But man, did I love watching him play with those great Boston teams in the mid-2000s. Rajon Rondo.
Bro, he's on my list.
No way.
This
Is he really?
Incredible.
Adam and I did not compare notes at all.
Rajon Rondo for sure for me, man. That guy was. I think that guy's like a historically underrated player, because part of it was the window of his peak was maybe didn't last as long, but he was an unbelievable defender. He was an unbelievable passer and floor general. High IQ, insane,
and gave you the iconic sound every time you watched them play during that time when Kevin Garnett was on the floor. If Kevin Garnett grabbed a defensive rebound, you immediately heard, KJ! Calling for the outlet. It was great. I could still hear it in my sleep. KJ!
He had such command of the game.
And think about like some of the massive playoff games he had.
32, 15, and 18.
He had a 45-point game against the Heat in the playoffs. And just like triple-double numbers all the time.
Yeah.
His ability to rake down or come along the baseline and sneak and steal the ball from post players, like his instincts for that kind of stuff, with rarely like getting burned off of it, incredible, man. And so Rondo is one of those guys. See, man, a ton of fun. And then all right, I got one from like my era.
Okay,
a power guy that I had to play against again, but like, dude was just like such a tough guy. A brick wall to run into, but like one of the nicest human beings I've ever met. I got to work with him at ESPN years later, Antonio Davis.
Oh, interesting.
Man, I liked Antonio Davis's game.
Really?
There. So much respect for what he brought to those Pacers teams. Nobody ever talked about it because it was Reggie, it was Rick Smith, Mark Jackson was on that team. Even Dale Davis, I felt like at times got more hype than him.
Yeah, you're right. He was like the fifth name.
And then you had Antonio Davis. So I put him down. And the last one, does he count? I'm pushing the limit on the term role player.
Okay. Oh my God.
Now I think about it.
Yeah, you answered your own question.
Now that I think about it, man,
this guy is it Scottie Pippen?
This guy's not a role player, man. I wrote down Manu Ginobili.
Oh, you know what though? I'll count it though. It's interesting. You're right. He's a star.
Hall of Famer.
Yeah, Hall of Famer. That's a great one though. Creativity.
The thing that was amazing me about him, you got Tony Parker, you got Tim Duncan, a young Kawhi, but go back to those playoff series that those guys were in together. How many times did they put the ball in Manu Ginobili's hands with 2 minutes to go in a one-possession game? That was the guy they trusted the most to make a great pass. He was so strong with the ball going basket. He was one of the first guys that would cradle it with two hands when he got into traffic and then extend his left out of that to finish. He always was coming up big defensive plays. Felt like he nailed a big three whenever they had to have it. So like his minutes and numbers were never like eye-popping, but his impact was as great as any player that put up his numbers that's ever played in the league.
Yeah. I think that's a great one. I didn't even think of him, but he was absolutely an incredible player. My last two, they're kind of the same, similar players. Again, I'm a big guy. I played big. Brad Miller, Joakim Noah. Love both of those guys. You see the style of player I like.
Yeah. There's no question.
A big guy who
I'm
can
going to
pass,
have a
defend.
whole, now that I know this, next time we do this, I'm going to have a whole list of guys that fall into that category. And you better co-sign all of them.
Okay.
Because you have a very distinct.
Do you see this type of guy?
No, I definitely do.
It?
I definitely do.
Yeah.
Basically, you're putting together a team full of 10 guys that you will not see a dunk in the game.
Yeah. This is why Yoke smile. It's like Yoke brings everything together, you know?
Yeah, that's
Borris
what we're talking
Diaw, Joakim Noah, Brad Miller, Rajon Rondo. He's got a little bit of all of that in there. So, but Brad Miller and Joakim Noah, both of them, Noah just was so pesky. Brad Miller, I thought I'd love to see him in today's game. You know, with the elbow, how much elbow play. Obviously, he played that a lot, but he just was a really good.
Hey, Robert Ory's another good one. Somebody
Ory.
put up here and said, "Come on, man, Manu was a star." That's what I'm saying. I think that's how most people interpret it.
This is how we do when we do these games, man. Lakes always cheats. That's the thing, man. He always takes a guy that was the obvious one. Let's go to weekend slate. This weekend slate is presented by FanDuel. You guys can get started with 150 in bonus bets whenever you win your first bet at FanDuel.com/AllNBA. Let's take a look at the weekend slate. Grizzlies at Mavs. Two teams that desperately need a win at the moment. Wolves at Heat. This could be a good one. Knicks at Clippers. And then the game you're calling tonight, Suns at Nuggets.
Man, there's a bunch of good ones on there.
On Sunday is insane.
I was focused just in terms of, in my head, my schedule here tonight. Hopefully we get a good game with Phoenix and Denver. And then, of course, Denver OKC Sunday, man. I can't wait. And by the way, thank you, James, for actually putting my games up on the screen this time.
Finally, huh?
Yeah, normally I don't make the cut for the big games of the weekend, apparently in James' mind. But I made it today. I'm happy with that. But I didn't even look at Saturday until just now.
Yeah,
I didn't know we had Lakers Celtics
Bring
on
it
Saturday.
back up. Lakers Celtics
and Pistons Warriors is fun.
Warriors is good.
Oh,
Yeah.
Pacers Hawks rematch.
So
The Hawks got them last night.
Yeah, Spurs at Kings is De'Aaron Fox's return game to Sacramento, which is always interesting.
How do you feel about these? The league now going to more and more of these back-to-backs with the same matchup.
Yeah, I mean, I don't love it. I don't love it.
Denver's got to play OKC
twice,
2 times in a row, in the same court.
Yeah.
Staying in OKC for 2 games,
and it's the same night,
tough,
right? Sunday,
man.
Monday.
Monday.
Yeah, that's very
Sunday.
weird.
It's an early tip, man. By the way, that's a noon tip.
I know,
for us,
man. I know.
That's early.
11 o'clock here.
We used to play noon games all the time when I was in the league.
How are they?
A Sunday, hated it.
Yeah, I think
with
everybody
a passion.
does.
It was absolutely awful. The
You
only
get to the
thing
arena
good,
like
the only
9
thing good
o'clock.
about it was you didn't have to do shoot around because the game was so early. Because I hated shoot around.
No, is there a player that likes shoot around?
I think there were some actually.
Really?
Probably your list of guys were there.
Hey, smart players, hard workers.
Borris Diaw trying to get in the gym an hour before everybody gets there in the cold.
Nah, Diaw wanted his coffee, man. He wanted to relax. All right, and then go to the Sunday one here because Sunday is phenomenal.
man,
Look at
good.
this. Nuggets at Thunder again. You're calling
man.
that game. Cavs at Bucks is a big one, especially for Milwaukee. Suns at Mavs. That game is for the play-in, by the way. Like, that's the 10-11 right now. Pistons, Blazers is good. Kings, Clippers. But I want to ask you now, so Nuggets have Suns tonight. You're calling that one. They got the Thunder on Sunday, which is a huge game. And you're calling that one as well. There's a new strategy for guarding Nikola Jokić and the Denver Nuggets, and JJ Redick is the one that really went all in on it. And it's 2 parts to me. One of it is you're sandwiching Jokić around the court. You're really just guarding him with 2 guys so that he can't catch it. Usually teams, he catches it, you immediately double, get it out of his hands, but they're not even letting him touch it. And Sacramento did this. We're starting to see teams do it. But the second part of it is the part I want to ask you about. That strategy is whatever. The other part of it is you put a smaller guy on it, Jared Vanderbilt, Jake LaRavia the other night, and you just foul the hell out of him. Pull up this photo here real quick, what it is. This is Yoke. That on the right, bleeding out of his left arm, 0 free throws in that game. And if you zoom in, look at the cross-section. Look at the cross-section of scars on his arm from this last 2 weeks. You put a small guy on, this is my belief, you put a small guy on a big, and the refs allow 70% more contact. And that's part of the strategy.
That cut on Jokic's arm that's what we look like right after the jump ball in the 90s. I mean, that's pretty much the first trip. The first trip.
I gotta get in the archives, man.
You get in there. But you know what? Let me just tell you something right now. I wouldn't eat before because it's not for people with queasy stomachs. Watching what that was about. I'm telling you right now.
Where's the scars?
Listen, he does. He gets mauled. Yeah, my buddy Scott Van Pelt always references, looks like he just wrestled a grizzly bear because he's always got cuts on his arms. He's got the red nose. He's got a lot of stuff going on out there, man. But listen, to your point, there's only one solution for teams employing certain type of off-the-grid defensive strategies. you have to make them pay.
Yeah.
Other guys have to make them pay
Yeah.
to realize the risk reward isn't there anymore.
Yeah.
Because that right now, it's not happening. And it was really the Lakers game
Yeah.
when the Lakers, that's when everybody was like, oh, this is going to work with Luka. Like they had that great game against Denver. They dominated them. They shut them down defensively. Luka was good offensively that night for the first time. And then here you go. Lakers have taken off since then. And now we get copycats, right?
Yeah,
They're
everybody's
saying,
trying it.
Maybe that is the best way. One in front, one behind at all times. Particularly to post them. Now I don't necessarily think he's got two on him all over the perimeter. So
No, yeah, it's elbows and below.
the question for I guess Michael Malone is to figure out how to get him more opportunities with the stuff they run and the designs that are going to make it harder for teams to try to do that to him in the post with the way you're spaced and the way the ball moves. And look, I saw one series of plays in the Lakers game we're talking about.
Yeah.
I mean, they had on the court, like they had basically non-shooting on the court.
Wow.
Like Westbrook was trying to throw the ball in the post, and his man was even back as a third guy, like in Jokic's lap, saying, go ahead. And so it's very important, I guess, depending on the lineup the Lakers or the Suns are going to use against him, you better make sure you have enough shooting if they're playing that type of defense.
Yeah. Well, we'll see. You're going to get a front row seat to two of them.
Yeah,
I don't think Phoenix can execute that game plan.
You got three guys on Denver listed as questionable. I hope they all play.
Man, come on.
Didn't come out here for this.
The Oak doesn't rest, man. You're
I
good.
didn't come out here for this.
Let's see what we got. One super chat. What do we got? You got to have to make this bigger, man. My eyes don't work like that.
I can read it.
All right, read it.
Let's see. Legs is our city.
Legs in our city.
I can't read it, actually. It is pretty far away.
Adam must be his favorite person. Let's go.
There we go.
Win.
There you go, James.
What are you guys' Nuggets general takeaways, and what's your favorite thing about them? We kind of just talked about the big picture take for him. My favorite thing about him, Nikola Jokić.
Yeah. That's the only thing you like about him, to be honest with you.
True.
You're down on everything.
That's not true.
Loves Jokic.
I also
though.
love Jalen Pickett. Hopefully you get to see Jalen Pickett tonight.
What
you
I
know
love
you know
about
what Jalen Pickett is? You know who he is?
Yeah.
He's like a 6-foot Borris Diaw.
Oh, God. He's one of No wonder.
Hit that outro.
No wonder
music,
your
James.
affinity for
Hit
Pickett.
that outro
It
music.
all comes back to Diaw.
I like it. It's my type of player. I'm like, oh, that's a 7-foot Diaw. Oh, that's a
Oh, my
shooting guard
goodness.
Diaw. I like it, man. This is incredible. Everybody, thanks so much. Always fun when Legs is in the building, man. This is always great. I hope we get it in the playoffs. A lot. Honestly, I hope you get to call some Nuggets games. That means you'll be in studio with us. We hope you guys enjoyed it. This show has been on fire, in my humble opinion, over the last couple weeks. So if you're not subscribed, make sure you are subscribed, not just on YouTube, but also subscribe on the podcast apps, wherever you get them. Leave a rating and review. Hit that like button, and we'll see you guys on Monday.
We all silly like the mayor.